I doubt if anything reveals the character of a nation or the character of any organization as does its music. It would not take one long sitting in the pews of the First Baptist Church of Hammond to find our position on music. Those of you who've been here just today know the kind of music that we sing and in which we believe here at First Baptist Church. I've often said that the music of a group reveals the condition of the hearts of those in the group. Somebody said music makes us what we are. That's true, but it also reveals what we are. In the Bible, it's unbelievable the influence that music had on the characters of the Bible. And that influence is wielded today still in our generation. When our Lord gave the first supper in the upper room, the Bible says when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Psalm 137 tells us that the Jews were strangers and pilgrims and, better still, captives in Babylon. They had a reputation for being good singers and loving and singing good music. The Babylonian people came and said, "Sing us a song." And the Jewish people said, "How can we sing the Lord's song in a strange land?" The Jews were known for their singing. When Moses and the Israelites crossed the Red Sea on dry ground, there was music involved as they sang a song of victory in Exodus 12, verses 1 through 21. David composed a song upon hearing of the death of Jonathan and Saul in 2 Samuel chapter 1, verses 17 through 27. Deborah and Barak sang a song after the great miraculous defeat of the forces of Sisera when the stars in their courses fought against the power of evil in Judges chapter 5. Psalm 45 is a song used to celebrate a wedding. The Psalms themselves are simply a compilation of songs used for the songbook of Israel. When God gave a baby to Samuel and Hannah, she sang in 1 Samuel 2, verses 1 to 11. When Mary heard of the coming of the Christ child, she sang in Luke 1, 46 through 55. The Jews in their journey toward the temple for the feast days would sing. The Song of Solomon is a beautiful love song, and the Bible certainly teaches the importance of music. Music not only had an important place in the Bible days, but it also has an important place today. Back in the days before television, you folks that used to hear the radio programs, you know what music did. I've mentioned this to our people many times. Remember the song, the program, The Shadow Knows? The Shadow Knows. The Shadow Knows, and that morbid kind of music would come. Remember Inner Sanctum? And the morbid Inner Sanctum? And the music. Remember McGee and Molly? Stella Dallas? Memories, memories, dreams of love so true. O'er the seas of memories, I'm drifting back to you. Buy this tape. If you never buy a tape, as long as you live, buy this tape. And now, the true life story of Stella Dallas. Will Stella's daughter, Laurie, be happy with Dick? Or will Laurie find it more pleasant to return home to Stella, her mother? Stay tuned. Memories, memories, dreams of love so true. Henry? Henry Aldrich! Coming, Mother. Nobody home, I hope. Now you're dating yourself if you laugh at any of these. But the honest, simple truth is, back in the days before television, the radio depended greatly on music. And music is such an important part of our lives. Take away the music from a wedding and see how sweet the wedding is. Take away the calls, or I Love You Truly, or the wedding march, and see how empty the wedding ceremony would become. Take the music from our service tonight. Take away the prelude. Take away the opening with the choir. Take away our congregational singing. Take away these young people singing. Take away this duet. Please, take away this duet. And take away the choir special. And you'd be surprised. No, you wouldn't. But it'd be unbelievable, the different spirit of the service. Who hasn't cried on graduation day when they played the alma mater, or as a band playing a stirring number came by in a parade? Who hasn't thrilled as the flag was raised and the Star-Spangled Banner? Well, some dirty beatnik hippie hasn't, but God pity his soul. He ought to go to Russia where he belongs. In one of my books, I tell about a man who was in my church in Texas. He was manager of a cafeteria, Wyatt's Cafeteria in Dallas, Texas. And he said, "Preacher, I want to show you something." He took me down to the Wyatt's Cafeteria one day at noon. He said, "Now you watch. Watch the organist." And he told the organist, he said, "Play a waltz, please, if you would." And she played a waltz, and he said, "Now watch the people get their food." And I watched. It was amazing. The folks would go through the line getting their food like this. And then he said, "Now, preacher, watch this." He said, "Play a march." And then they did it. Don't you see? Now, if you don't believe music has an effect on you, do what you do. You go down, you turn your station, your radio on WAIT. That's still a station that has some halfway decent music. WAIT, that's it, isn't it? In Chicago. Or some good FM station, and listen to the classics maybe, or some real good love songs, and drive down the highway, and notice you'll drive about 45, 50 miles an hour. And then you turn your radio on some jerky, hippie kind of beatnik folk music or rock music, and then notice in the rearview mirror that little twirling light behind the car. It's an unbelievable thing, what music, the influence that music has on each of us. Dentists say, for example, that they can help alleviate the pain associated with the pulling of a tooth with good music. I don't think that's true, that's what they say. Check the great soul-winning churches in America, and you'll find that a certain kind of music and a certain kind of church always go together. I don't care what you are. Brother, your music will ruin your church unless you have the right kind of music. I don't care who you are, how good your preaching is. If you have starchy, staid music, then you'll have a starchy, staid church before long. Music, all over this area, and all across America. A gospel preacher gets up after the people have been tranquilized by highbrow music, so-called, and there's no spirit, there's no lilt, there's no joy, and of course, there's no power. The great soul-winning churches. In many churches, a good, faithful gospel preacher stands after the audience has been ruined. Nothing can wake the people from their slumbering lethargy after an organist or soloist is sufficient to tranquilize them to a funeral dirge or the Volga boat song. You're not going to have an Episcopalian song service and a Pentecostal invitation in the same service. By the way, mix a Baptist sermon in between. Nothing is deadening our churches any more than our music program. And it's coming, I fear, in fact I know, from the music departments in our colleges. Some long-haired, effeminate sissy, and God pity him, in many of our colleges stands up and teaches our preacher boys the kind of music that doesn't reach the heart, just reaches the head, doesn't do the job for God, doesn't warm the hearts of the people, doesn't prepare the people for the sermon, and nothing is deadening our churches quite as much. We sing here at First Baptist, we sing the gospel song, the song with the joy, a delight, and a thrill. Now don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about the rock and roll beat. I'm not for the jungle beat, whether it's across the street, in the village boutique, or in the church here on First Baptist Church of Hammond, or whether it's in Campus Crusade or Youth for Christ or in some church out at the edge of town. I'm not for the jungle beat, and I detest with a passion the putting of gospel words to the hippie kind of music. Listen to me. I'll go a step further than that. I detest anybody looking like a hippie. Listen, you preachers tonight, here, you got sideburns down to your Adam's apple. And before you, now listen, don't get mad now. You got a whole week to get mad in, and it'll get worse as the week goes along. So you better just take this now like a good little boy, and some of our own folks too. Listen, if you're a Christian, don't wear your hair and sing and act and dress like a bunch of heathen communists do. As long as I'm, by the way, I love the classics. I love classical music. I doubt if a day ever passes without my listening to some classical music. But as long as I'm pastor of this church, not a classical number will be played on this organ for a prelude or an offertory. I love anthems, but we don't use them here in First Baptist Church. We use gospel music that reaches the heart. The Bible speaks in Colossians 3:16 about spiritual songs. And in Ephesians chapter 5, it's a very interesting thing to me that it talks about being filled with the Spirit, and in the next verse it doesn't talk about preaching, it talks about being filled with the Spirit, and then it goes right to music, not to preaching. I'm talking about Billy Sunday, Homer Road Heaver, Dwight Moody, R.A. Torrey kind of music. I'm talking about at Calvary, at the cross, dwelling in Beulah. How firm a foundation. What a friend we have in Jesus. Wonderful words of life. All hail the power of Jesus' name, and Jesus is coming again. I'm talking about solid songs that have built the church and brought revival to our nation. Now, if music is so life-changing, and here's the sermon. If music is so life-changing and so atmosphere-determining, the communists are certainly not going to bypass it in their efforts to take over America. The communists are master propagandists. Something that affects the nation so much would certainly not be bypassed by people who are as brilliant as are our communist adversaries. In 1920, Lenin spoke at the Third All-Russian Congress of Young Communist League, and here's what he said, and I quote, "If we're going to spread our doctrine, we're going to have to rework the culture." Did you hear that? Lenin said 50 years ago, if we're going to spread our doctrine, we'll have to rework their culture. This modern art we have didn't come from Waxahachie or Nacogdoches, Texas. It came from the heart of communism trying to destroy the culture and the art of our country. Did you know why we have herky-jerky music and herky-jerky art? The kind of art you see on the average canvas is only the kind of music, the typical kind of music you hear in the average place. It's herky-jerky. You get an egg and scramble the egg, get some ketchup and squirt the ketchup on it and throw some lemon juice through it, and you've got a work of art nowadays. You can sell it for something. God pity. I feel like a tree or a sunset or a house or a meadow or a flower, but to say the least, it takes the condition of our nation. In 1929, the Russians founded the Association of Proletarian Musicians just for one purpose. That was to place communist influence on the music of the world. That means since 1929, or for 42 years, there has been in Soviet Russia a department, just like our Department of Interior, just like the Department of Commerce, just like the Department of Defense. There has been a Department of Music in Russia dedicated to affecting and hurting the music of the world in an effort to spread communism. The House Un-American Activities Committee, now let me go on record as saying I wish we had a dozen of them, called Sidney Finkelstein, that's a real name, that sounds like a musician, doesn't it? Sidney Finkelstein. They called Sidney Finkelstein the cultural spokesman of the Communist Party. That's what the House Un-American Activities Committee said. Finkelstein is the cultural spokesman of the Communist Party. Finkelstein said, quote, "Break down the barriers in America between classical and popular music." That's what he said. Break down the barriers between classical and popular music. It is no surprise, then, that barrier has been broken down. That means these fellows on television, these hideous talk shows, now I don't watch them myself. I just go to visit Dr. Billings occasionally, and they're always on his house. But I go, and these idiots, these long-haired, stinking beatniks, these fellows dedicated to destroying America, singing their rock and their jerky music and their hippie music and their communist music and their dope music and their narcotic music, all of it is nothing in the world but an effort by Soviet Russia to destroy America and our way of life. Somebody take the fellow out who said that. I don't like it, and I don't plan to lump it, and you'll answer to God for that. Don't be surprised. All of you don't go. Listen, one of our teenage boys can take care of that little fellow. In fact, send one of our girls. Don't everybody leave. Don't feel bad. I've never preached this sermon yet what folks didn't get up and walk out. Last time I preached it, I had 7 walk out. My goal is 8 tonight. I'll tell you one thing. What you just saw is a perfect picture of why we need this kind of preaching. This is First Baptist Church of Hammond, Indiana. This is one of the greatest churches in all the world. And right here in our pews on a Sunday night, some idiot can get up and holler and scream. If you don't like it, you can lump it. I don't like it. I don't plan to lump it. I plan to fight it as long as I can. And I want you preachers to get enough courage to go back home and do the same. Now, one reason I'm preaching on this tonight is to put some grit in the craw. Some of you pussyfooting, compromising, ear-tickling, back-scratching, penny-pinching, nickel-nipping, pink tea and lemonade preachers, so you'll go home and cut loose and let her rip.